In this video, finds are waiting for you that can rewrite a single official history of mankind. A find from the series, This Happens Once in a Lifetime, The Secret of the Forbidden Book of Enoch. Egypt hides the story of who was kept in lead coffins and what kind of unique princess has survived to this day. Hi friend, you are on the KirTop channel. Sacrifice in Denmark. In Denmark, on the island of Zealand, archaeologists have discovered the remains of a man who presumably was sacrificed. The ritual most likely took place during the Neolithic period. The find is over 5,000 years old. At the moment, experts have found leg bones, a pelvis, and a fragment of the lower jaw with teeth. The archaeologists will determine the sex of the victim later on the basis of the pelvic bones, and the age will be determined by the teeth. Let me remind you that people have only two sexes, male and female, and they differ in the pelvic bones. The fact that it was a ritual sacrifice is indicated by animal bones and a flint axe found nearby. Swamp people archaeologists find all over the world. Some die during an accident, others are buried during a sacrifice. In ancient times, people believed that such sacrifices to the forces of nature would help overcome hunger and other disasters. It seemed to them that the swamp sucking in a person would help the people. It's good that people don't think so now. And during the global melting of glaciers, they do not sacrifice people. Find from the Once in a Lifetime series. A unique and very rare find was discovered by archaeologists in Britain in a female burial of the early Middle Ages. The beautiful necklace consists of 30 pendants and beads made from Roman coins, gold, garnet, glass, and semi-precious stones. A rectangular pendant with the image of a cross forms the central part of the necklace and is inlaid with red garnets in a gold setting. The approximate age of this wealth is 1,300 years. No wonder such finds are called once in a lifetime. Finding such a decoration again is an almost impossible task. Previously, each piece of jewelry was made in a single piece and used a unique combination of materials. Interestingly, the necklace is only part of the collection of grave goods. The find was nicknamed Harpol's Treasure after the place of its discovery, and it is one of the most important finds in Britain. Similar necklaces have been found in Britain, but they are all very different from each other. For example, in Northamptonshire in 1860, they found the Desborough necklace, which is now in the collection of the British Museum. At the moment, restorers are looking for traces of organic remains. According to the ancient rites of burial, which I also already spoke about, in England women were buried on beds. Therefore, archaeologists are trying to find the remains of a bed. During this time, the skeleton had completely decomposed, only tiny fragments of tooth enamel remained. Judging by the jewelry, the woman was very influential in her time. She could have been an abbess in a temple or even a member of the royal family. But if this find can be more or less explained, then no one can explain the mysterious Book of Enoch. The Secret of the Forbidden Book of Enoch. There is one book in the world that is considered forbidden among all believers. All the churches in the world do not even want to say out loud the name of the forbidden book. This book holds many secrets and has acquired a lot of legends. And now it is already difficult to say what was true and what was not. The Book of Enoch is an apocrypha dating back to the 1st century BC. For the first time, believing Christians learned about this book in the 18th century. A secret scripture has been found in the Ethiopian Bible. However, the Pope and all the clergy forbade giving official status to the ancient text and including it in the canonical books. The book contains one of the most mysterious and controversial religious texts in the world. Although in Scripture it is referred to by the Apostle Peter, Tertullian, Clement of Alexandria, and Origen, and even this could not break the Vatican and force it not to ban the book. The author of the ancient book is the Old Testament patriarch Enoch, the seventh descendant of Adam. He talks about completely different events that caused the flood. Perhaps this information confuses the Pope. The Bible mentions that Enoch was 365 years old when he entered heaven. In heaven, he learned about the kingdom of God and received knowledge that he could pass on to mankind. After that, many angels descended to the earth who saw the most beautiful women and took them as their wives. In response to this, God became angry and decided to wash away their sins with the great flood. For thousands of years, people have been trying to understand the meaning of the scriptures. Indeed, if children were born from the connection of angels and earthly women, then they were real giants, from 5 meters or more. Angels taught people how to create weapons and gave them secret magical knowledge. However, nothing good came of it. Humanity only destroyed each other. God, seeing what was happening on earth, warned Noah about his decision to cleanse the earth of the godless, leaving only the righteous. The Lord sent the angels into the darkness before the last judgment. The giants themselves destroyed each other, and that time was the beginning of a new human era. Until now, the knowledge presented in this book has been carefully studied not only by religious people, but also by scientists and even ordinary readers. Indeed, after reading this book, many questions and theories of the origin of mankind arise. This book indicates that the Lord came to earth from another world and populated it with people. Such a theory of the origin of mankind does not coincide with any of the accepted in different religions. This book once again receives the status of mystery and mysticism. Grave of a Saka warrior. For a long time, there were no finds from Kazakhstan, but there is actually something to see there too. This year, archaeologists found an early Iron Age burial mound, which contained an almost untouched burial place of a Saka warrior who lived in the 5th to 2nd centuries BC. Fragments of a sword adorned with gold, golden leaves, silver alloy clothes, and arrowheads were found in the pit. The remains of the warrior lay in a wooden box at a depth of 3 meters. According to a superficial analysis, the man was not young and not from the royal family, because the artifacts found in the pit indicate that he was a warrior, possibly a military leader. Scientists learned about mounds in the Alatau region in the late 1960s. They were found here 9 pieces. Not much is currently known about Saka. How did this people appear? How they lived next to the nomads? What was their way of life? The more archaeologists find similar burials, the more they will be able to learn about those ancient people. But in Egypt, for many years, the authorities have been trying to hide the official story. Mystery of the Benin bronze. An unusual discovery was made by archaeologists in Nigeria. Scientists have discovered that African craftsmen made Benin bronze from German ore. The Benin bronze is a large collection of 3,000 brass figurines found in Nigeria in 1897. British soldiers captured them and took them to Britain. For a long time, scientists thought that the figurines were made from melted-down rings that were used as money in the slave trade. But a recent study showed that most of the figurines are made from ore found in Germany in the Rhineland. African metalworkers made figurines in the 16th and 19th centuries. Scientists analyzed the metal rings that Europeans traded for gold, ivory, and slaves in Africa. The researchers compared these rings and the Benin bronze and found that they were made from the same ore. This discovery has helped scholars better understand the history of the slave trade and learn more about how Europeans influenced African art. Now, the largest collection of Benin bronzes is in the British Museum in London. Nigeria asked to return these works of art back to their homeland. Now let's think together whether European museums will return ancient artifacts back to Africa. You can write your opinion in the comments below the video. Tomb with human remains. Incredible discovery straight from the heart of Oman. Archaeologists have found an ancient stone tomb in the desert, which is over 7,000 years old. Just think about it. It was so long ago that even dinosaurs have already become extinct. In this tomb, they found the remains of dozens of people who lived in those ancient times. This place is located near the city of Eniafun in the center of Oman, close to the coast. But do not think that there are palm trees and sandy beaches. Around only a harsh rocky desert. Archaeologist Elizabeta Danielisova and her team from the Czech Institute of Archaeology in Prague have been digging in the sands of Oman for years, unearthing the country's ancient secrets. They even discovered a stone axe that could be over 1,000,000 years old. Can you imagine what secrets these stones can hold? But their research is not limited to just one tomb. They also study ancient drawings on the rocks nearby. These drawings were made thousands of years after the tomb was built. What will they tell us about the lives of those people who lived here thousands of years ago? We don't know yet, but we'll definitely find out later. Unique wagon in Russia. Imagine a car made by hand from wood. Instead of wheels, massive wooden discs. Instead of a body, a lattice of intertwined twigs. It is curious, but such a wagon was found by archaeologists in the Rostov region. It was buried in the grave of a 50-year-old man who lived in the 23rd century BC. You will probably ask, how could such an ancient wagon survive? Well, we're just lucky here. The coolest part of the wagon, the frame, that is, the running gear, has been preserved quite well. And you know what's interesting? The masters of those times very carefully selected wood for every detail. For example, the frame was made from maple and the wheels were made from oak. Super deep research even showed that all the trees were native. This means that the wagon was made right there. Our ancestors cut down trees in the forest that was nearby and used them to create their vehicles. The coolest thing about this story is that the ancient inhabitants of these places knew how to work with wood, weave from twigs, and all this with the help of simple bronze tools. So guys, the ancient nomads were not quite as savages as we could imagine. They skillfully used all available resources and created completely unique things. Egyptian authorities falsify history. For decades, archaeologists have been complaining that the Egyptian authorities do not allow excavations. They claim that the Egyptian authorities selectively grant permission to study the ancient world. Getting permission is almost impossible. Only a few U.S. archaeologists manage to gain access to the site, and those are not the archaeologists who do the official history. Basically, these are employees of some secret structures and secret societies. It seems to me that these are representatives of a certain global elite who want to gain access to ancient artifacts around the world. As soon as something outstanding is found in Egypt, this place is immediately closed. The press is not allowed to cover the events, and the excavation site becomes under round-the-clock police control. No wonder you heard stories about finds in Egypt on my channel, but they were all incomplete. And as soon as archaeologists approach the possible burial place of Cleopatra or other prominent personalities of ancient Egypt, the story of the excavations ends immediately. It used to be that the Egyptian authorities did this in order to become a discoverer, but Russian researchers made a sensational statement. In fact, some of the artifacts found in Egypt become the property of secret societies or end up in private collections of the richest families in the world. And if the artifact does not fit into the official history, then it is simply destroyed. One of the cases seen in the tombs looked like this. In one of the tombs, there were many ancient figures on the walls and images of gods and people. But the gods looked whole, and the heads of the people were broken and erased. And the destruction occurred not hundreds of years ago, but today. The image of the border of the dresses of Egyptian women and men was also erased, as if they were specifically trying to destroy the ornament, despite the fact that the image of the dresses was preserved. Also, archaeologists witnessed how, during the restoration work, Egyptian workers cut off ancient frescoes with chisels and instead created new ones using stencils. So why are ancient frescoes being destroyed? Why are the statues destroyed? Why are many destructions of ancient sites attributed to terrorist groups, as was the case in Iraq and Afghanistan? Why is the so-called world government trying to hide the real history of mankind? And how do the richest clans on Earth replenish their ancient collections? I will try to answer these questions gradually in the following videos. In the meantime, I'll tell you the continuation of the story from Notre Dame Cathedral. Continuation of the story of the lead sarcophagus. I already talked about the lead sarcophagus in one of my videos and promised to tell you more about the study of this interesting find. But indeed, the opening of the sarcophagus turned out to be interesting and with an unusual continuation. Inside one of the sarcophaguses were the remains of Canon Antoine de Laporte, who died in 1710. And in the second, archaeologists found a sawn skull. It was the skeleton of a horseman of noble origin. His skull was artificially deformed in childhood, and after death he was cut in half. The sarcophaguses were discovered during restoration work at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. During the long years of its existence, the cathedral was restored several times, and only thanks to the epitaph, scientists were able to identify the remains of Antoine de Laporte, who at the time of his death was 83 years old, and he died on December 24, 1710. He was quite wealthy and at one time financed the work on the reconstruction of the cathedral. Fortunately, all his bones, hair, and even a beard have survived to this day. It is not yet possible for archaeologists to determine exactly who was the second person. Previously, it was a writer of aristocratic origin, 25 to 40 years old. He did not serve in the church. He died around the 16th century. Unusually, he was embalmed before burial, which was a very rare practice in those years. Perhaps the skull was cut for this procedure. Next to him in the coffin were found the remains of many different plants, and on his head during the burial he had a wreath of flowers, which once again proves that he was not an ordinary person. However, scientists from Greece put forward the theory that people are able to hibernate for weeks and even months. You will learn more about this later. Ancient bridge in England. In England, there is an amazing wooden bridge from the Neolithic period. It is almost 6,000 years old. It's a trail called the Sweet Track that cuts through swampy terrain in the Somerset Levels. It is named after Ray Sweet, who discovered it in 1970. The dating accuracy was determined by the dendrochronology method. Sweet Track was created as a shortcut through the swamp. It was actively used for 10 years, but then it was abandoned, possibly due to rising water levels. Items found along the trail include stone axes, arrows, the remains of a dish, parts of bows, bone hooks, and a fragment of a spoon. The road is about 1.8 kilometers long and connected two Neolithic settlements on opposite sides of the swamp. Today, the Sweet Track is considered to be the oldest known road in England. Surprisingly, the manufacturing technology of such wooden bridges has not changed much over the past millennia. This unique find allows you to learn more about the life of people in the Neolithic era and their methods of transportation. Accidental discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. Back in 1922, an archaeologist named Howard Carter encountered the greatest discovery of his life. In the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, he discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun, which contained more than 5,000 precious artifacts. But do you know that this expedition might not have happened? Western archaeologists have been exploring the Valley of the Kings since the beginning of the 19th century. When the First World War began, the excavations were suspended and did not achieve great results. At this time, the Earl of Carnarvon, or George Herbert, who financed these excavations, appears on the scene. He was disappointed by the lack of discoveries and was ready to cut off funding. But in 1922, he decided to give a chance to Howard Carter, who was sure that there was something important in the Valley of the Kings. This was the last excavation season in the valley. Working tirelessly, Carter and his team almost lost hope until November 4th, 1922, they opened the tomb of the pharaoh Tutankhamun. It was a huge discovery that surprised the whole world. In the tomb, they found more than 5,000 valuable artifacts that had been lying untouched for 3,000 years. In Carter's book, which was later found, was the address of the Earl of Carnarvon, thanks to whom these excavations took place. The Count unfortunately died the year after the discovery from complications from a mosquito bite. 50 years after Carter's discovery, many of the treasures from Tutankhamun's tomb were on display in the British Museum. The exhibition was so popular that it was extended for 6 months. Over 30,000 people visited it in the first week. On the first day of the exhibition, people stood in line for more than 14 hours to see these unique artifacts. Interestingly, in 1921, Howard Carter was a guest of the Earl of Carnarvon in his castle. This is confirmed by the population census of the time. It's funny that the profession of an archaeologist was not mentioned in Carter's documents. He was called an artist. After Tutankhamun's tomb was completely cleared in 1932, Carter decided to retire from archaeology. He died 7 years later. There was an amazing story about how perseverance and self-confidence led to one of the most important discoveries in the history of archaeology. The path to discovery is not always straight and easy, but it is stories like these that show that even the most difficult obstacles can be overcome. Cemetery of ancient elephant relatives. We have news from the world of ancient animals that will definitely surprise you. Imagine ancient elephants. They're not just big, they're gigantic. Their teeth were so huge that they were called gomphotheres, which means fangs like swords. And it was they who became the heroes of our today's video. Representatives of the Florida Museum of Natural History made an amazing discovery at the Montbrook site. Where the river flowed millions of years ago, they found the fossilized remains of these giants. These huge animals have been dying here for centuries. According to Jonathan Block, the museum's curator, this is the find of the century. The Gomphotherium skeleton found is the most complete in Florida and one of the most complete in North America. Its age is about 5.5 million years. But the most amazing thing about this story is that scientists found several skeletons at once. Usually, archaeologists find only fragments of the skeleton, but several complete skeletons have been found here, including the skeleton of an adult and 7 younger ones. According to scientists, these ancient elephants did not die at the same time. Most likely, Gomphotheria got stuck in one place at different times. Perhaps it was some kind of cursed place where they were trapped, but these are just guesses. Humans are able to hibernate. It's December outside and most of our planet has come to severe frosts and the streets are covered with snow. The day has become shorter, there is no desire to wake up in the morning, all the more we don't want to go to work or cook breakfast. And if not for the alarm clock, we would sleep for days. Or not. Have you ever thought that people can hibernate like bears? Excavations have been carried out on the territory of the Sierra de Atapuerca archaeological complex for more than 30 years. Here is a famous site of ancient people. This place is considered a real treasure in the world of archaeology. Scientists have studied the bones of ancient people and have identified a strange feature for themselves. In a certain period, the growth of bone tissue was interrupted for several months. Simply put, people's metabolic processes slowed down. This allowed our ancestors to survive in extreme temperatures and with little food. And the most interesting thing is that this is possible only during a long sleep. Archaeologists have concluded that ancient people had the ability to hibernate for a long time, as do bears, badgers, and raccoons. However, not all scientists agree with this hypothesis. After studying the bones of bears, scientists noticed that the structure of their changes is the same as that of ancient cavemen. Some scientists believe that the lack of food during the cold period could not be the main reason for people to sleep soundly for months. After all, now there are peoples who calmly survive in a harsh climate, the same Eskimos. However, Neanderthals did not have the opportunity to stock up on food for the winter and plan their diet. And it seems to me that the Neanderthals did not have their own nutritionists. Therefore, they had the need to hibernate for a long period of time. In the modern world, there is the concept of lethargic sleep, which is still considered a little-studied, mysterious phenomenon. A person can stay in a state of lethargic sleep for days, weeks, months, and even years. This phenomenon is the body's response to stress. Perhaps our ancestors knew about this phenomenon and deliberately introduced themselves into a state of stress, which later put them to sleep for a long time. Write in the comments, would you like to have the opportunity to sleep for several months? Ancient Mayan football scoreboard. In Mexico, at Chichen Itza on the Yucatan Peninsula, archaeologists have found a stone disc depicting two people playing tlachtli, an ancient game popular in the region. This disc, weighing more than 40 kilograms, was used as a scoreboard to record the results of matches. Tlachtli, Mesoamerican ball game, was common among the peoples of Mesoamerica before the arrival of Columbus. The games were held as ritual events and were sometimes accompanied by sacrifices, but were more often played for entertainment. It is difficult to disagree that archaeologists consider tlachtli to be the ancestor of modern football. Researchers estimate the age of the plate at 1,200 years. Archaeologist Francisco Osorio Leon says such finds are very rare. Iconographic experts have identified two central players, one wearing a feather headdress and the other, his opponent, wearing a serpent turban, an outfit typical of pelota players, another ancient ball game estimated to be 3,000 years old. Ancient Roman sundial. Guys, are you ready to be surprised? Now I will tell you about an amazing artifact from ancient Rome, a bronze sundial in the form of pork hams. Yes, you heard it right. This amazing item was found in the 18th century at the famous Villa of the Papyri in Herculaneum. It was nicknamed pork clock or prosciutto clock, Italian for ham. The bronze ham shows a curvilinear table that helped measure the length of the shadow. The vertical columns indicate the names of the Roman months, and the horizontal lines indicate the number of hours from sunrise to sunset. Unfortunately, the pointer, gnomon, broke off and was lost. But in 2016, scientists created a copy of the clock using a 3D printer and added a gnomon tail to the ham. The researchers conducted experiments and found that the clock works quite well. It may seem that the accuracy of the clock is not high, but the Romans did not need to know the time to the nearest minute. Moreover, these clocks were more of a status item, like modern expensive Swiss watches. People wanted to show that they have such a thing and not just tell the time. You may ask, how did the Romans point the clock at the sun without a compass? The answer is simple. They set the vertical plane of the clock directly to the sun. Even in the distant past, people created interesting and unusual things that boggle our imagination even now. Ancient funerary ossuaries. And now I will tell you about 3 stone urns, which are already 1850 years old. They were found near the Israeli city of Kafr Khana in the Galilee. Stone urns, also called ossuaries, were used in ancient times to store skeletal remains. This was traditional for the Jews of Judea and Galilee during the period of the Roman Empire, beginning around the 1st century BC. These urns were discovered in ancient burial caves, accidentally destroyed during construction work. Of the 3 urns, only fragments survived and they were all empty. Immediately, there was a suspicion of looting. Police have already launched an investigation, and construction on the site has been halted. The destruction of the caves caused irreversible damage. Archaeologists are urging people to be vigilant and report suspicious activity in places where there may be archaeological sites. The researchers collected all the ossuaries found and carefully studied them, and that's what they found. Urns are made in the Greek style, which was typical for the Jewish population in the Roman period. And the most interesting thing, one of the urns depicts a round wreath with drilled holes. It is believed that this is a symbol of the victory of the deceased over death. This find is 800 million years old. This find has been the subject of debate among scholars for many years. For some time, everyone forgot about it. People were simply tired of proving the reality or mythical nature of this find. Some zealously argued that the woman is real, others argued that this was a lie. However, now they are talking about this beauty again, and they are trying to prove that the woman belonged to some very ancient civilization. But let's take everything in order. Miners near the village of Rzhavchik, Tisulsky district, Kemerovo region in Russia, worked at a depth of 72 meters, and at the bottom of the mine they found a strange oblong object about a meter wide and more than 2 meters long. It was like a sealed box, and it would seem nothing unusual. They lifted the marble coffin out and tried to open it. Let me remind you that the find was found at a depth of 72 meters. For several days, massive miners tried to open it. Inside was a young woman, tall, beautiful, with open blue eyes and delicate skin. Her hair is chestnut red, her nails neatly trimmed. She was immersed in a clear bluish liquid and seemed to be asleep, not dead. Not bad, so the story intersects with the previous one, isn't it? The woman was wearing a dress but no underwear. People from all over the village came to see the woman and even came from nearby cities. To better examine it, they took it out of the liquid, and before our eyes it began to turn black. After a short time, she already looked like an ordinary old corpse. The scientists who arrived at this place immediately realized that such a find could completely change the history of mankind. After conducting radiocarbon analysis, scientists determined that the woman was immersed in a marble coffin and buried in the Carboniferous period of the Paleozoic era, millions of years before the advent of dinosaurs, long before the formation of coal on the planet. It is for this reason that the coffin has grown into a layer of coal and ended up so deep underground. They called the woman the Tisul Princess. They say that after this event, the place was mothballed. The military gathered here and completely buried the mine and closed access here. The 6 miners who discovered the princess died under strange circumstances, as often happens. Rumor has it that more similar burials were found near this place, but nothing is known about them. Let this story be fiction, and let's say nothing like it happened. And all these are tales of local villagers. However, in reality, there are many stories about other finds that are hidden, that disappear, that they try to interpret absolutely illogically. So there is someone who is trying to stick to one official story. Do you admit that the story that happened to the Tisul princess could at least partially be true? Write your opinion in the comment below the video. Thanks for your views. Bye, everyone.